In the modern Catholic Church, few debates spark as much discussion and passion as the future of the Latin Mass. For centuries, Latin was the universal language of the Church. It echoed through grand cathedrals, whispered in quiet chapels, and shaped the rhythm of Catholic life around the world. But over time, especially following the Second Vatican Council in the 1960s, the Church gradually shifted toward the use of local languages in Mass. This change was meant to bring the liturgy closer to the people, making it more accessible and participatory. Yet even today, the Latin Mass retains a deep and devoted following, one that stretches from lay believers to high-ranking cardinals. The current papacy under Pope Francis has shown a clear preference for a more pastoral, inclusive, and modern approach to Catholicism. He has emphasized dialogue, humility, and mercy over rigid tradition. His vision of the Church embraces diversity and focuses on outreach, especially to the marginalized and those who feel distant from religious institutions. This direction has been welcomed by many Catholics worldwide, but it has also left traditionalist groups feeling uneasy and at times alienated. In 2021, Pope Francis issued the Motu Proprio Traditionis Custodes, which significantly restricted the use of the traditional Latin Mass, also known as the Tridentine Mass. This document made it clear that the Latin Mass should not be seen as equal in status to the post-Vatican II liturgy and placed control of Latin Mass permissions firmly in the hands of local bishops, rather than allowing broad celebration by default. The decision was seen by many as a decisive move to limit the influence of traditionalist movements within the Church. It underscored Pope Francis's belief that unity and communion were more important than liturgical preferences that, in some cases, risked creating division. Despite these restrictions, a number of prominent cardinals have continued to advocate for the preservation and promotion of the Latin Mass. These figures believe that the traditional liturgy offers a sense of reverence, beauty, and theological depth that is sometimes lacking in modern forms. They argue that the Latin Mass connects the faithful to centuries of Catholic history and reflects the transcendent nature of divine worship. For them, this isn't simply about language. It's about identity, continuity, and spiritual richness. One of the most outspoken defenders of the Latin Mass is Cardinal Burke, an American cardinal known for his strong traditionalist views. Cardinal Burke has consistently emphasized the importance of preserving the ancient rites of the Church. He has expressed concern that the suppression of the Latin Mass risks severing Catholics from their liturgical heritage. For Cardinal Burke and others like him, the issue is not just about preference, it's about fidelity to a form of worship that has nourished the faith of countless generations. Similarly, Cardinal Sarah, the former prefect of the Congregation for Divine Worship and the Discipline of the Sacraments, has voiced his support for the traditional liturgy. Cardinal Sarah has written extensively about the need for silence, reverence, and transcendence in the Mass. Although he served under Pope Francis, his theological outlook is often seen as more aligned with the traditionalist camp. He once remarked that the crisis of faith in the modern world is reflected in how we celebrate the liturgy, and he urged priests and faithful alike to rediscover the sacred through older forms of worship. Other cardinals, such as Gerhard Ludwig Müller, the former prefect of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, have also defended the right of Catholics to access the Latin Mass. While not necessarily opposing reforms in principle, these figures argue that liturgical diversity should be seen as an enrichment of the Church rather than a threat to unity. For them, allowing space for the Latin Mass is a way to honor the legitimate spiritual needs of a portion of the faithful. It is important to recognize that support for the Latin Mass among cardinals does not necessarily equate to opposition to the Pope. Many of these figures respect the authority of the pontiff but believe that the Church must be broad enough to accommodate differing expressions of piety. Their hope is not to reverse Vatican II, but to preserve what they see as a treasure within the Church's living tradition. That said, the possibility of a future pope who actively reverses Pope Francis's reforms seems unlikely at this moment. The College of Cardinals, which elects the Pope, has been significantly shaped by Francis himself. Over the past decade, he has appointed a majority of the current voting cardinals. Many of these appointments have favored bishops from the global South, individuals known more for their pastoral sensitivity than liturgical traditionalism. These cardinals often prioritize social justice, care for the poor, and environmental concerns, core themes of Francis's pontificate. As such, it appears improbable that the next pope would be a vocal traditionalist aiming to restore the Latin Mass as a dominant form. The overall direction of the Church, at least in leadership, leans toward continuity with Pope Francis's vision. However, this does not mean the traditionalist voice will disappear. On the contrary, it continues to grow at the grassroots level, particularly among young Catholics who are drawn to the solemnity and symbolism of the Latin liturgy. In seminaries, among youth movements, and within growing religious communities, there is a noticeable interest in traditional worship. Some observers note that this resurgence among the younger generation might influence the Church's trajectory in the long term, even if it remains a minority trend for now. The traditionalist movement is not monolithic. It includes a wide range of perspectives, from those who merely appreciate the older liturgy to those who question the direction of the post-conciliar Church more fundamentally. At the heart of this debate is a deeper question. What kind of church should Catholicism be in the 21st century? A church rooted in timeless tradition, or one that adapts continually to a changing world? Can it be both? And is there room within Catholic unity for genuine liturgical diversity? For many Catholics, the answer lies in balance. The Church must hold together the ancient and the new, the mystical and the pastoral, the Latin and the vernacular. While the election of a traditionalist pope seems unlikely in the current landscape, the influence of cardinals who defend the Latin Mass ensures that this conversation is far from over. Their voices, grounded in deep theological reflection and pastoral concern, will continue to shape the Church's dialogue around liturgy. In the end, the Catholic Church is a living tradition. It is not frozen in time, nor is it disconnected from its past. Whether one prefers the Latin Mass or the Reformed liturgy, what unites the faithful is deeper than any one form of worship. It is their shared belief in the mystery of the Eucharist, the teachings of Christ, and the call to holiness. And as long as that unity remains the focus, the Church will continue to navigate its internal differences with grace, guided by the Spirit and enriched by its vast, diverse history.